Thanks everybody for tuning in to Mud Talk. We have Mr. Dr. Durant here officially on the show. TPS Superintendent. Like I said, I like to call him the Barack Obama of Toledo. So we thank you so much for being on the show and this interview with us. Before we get into any of the questions, can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about how you even got to the position of superintendent?
You know what? I started off as a fourth grade teacher. So, going through college, and most people know Chuck Ely, who is renowned for an undefeated seasons at the University of Toledo. Just so happened to build a relationship with his son, Damon Ely, who came in at the same year as the University of Toledo football player at the university. And he was in education, and he was in special education. And just maybe through conversation with him, as well as self-reflection, because I'm very spiritual, that I began to realize that I had a great bond and connection with children and kids, and for whatever reason, they responded to me differently than my brothers, sisters, and other peers. And so I kind of just led by faith, and I always tell people to walk by faith and not by sight. And I ended up going into education, taught the fourth grade at Nathan Hale Elementary, sitting on Upton Avenue. Wanted to become a dean of students at Spring Elementary, then went on to be the assistant principal at Spring Elementary. Went from there to be the principal at Riverside, and then went to the Board of Education, became assistant superintendent, and then now I'm the 29th superintendent of TPS.
That's awesome. 20,
Yeah.
superintendents. I never even knew that.
I remember when you became superintendent, I was really excited because I liked that you just had grown up in Toledo and come all the way through. You went to an education program and came all the way through your teaching until you became superintendent. And it's nice to have somebody local that understands the community, that understands the needs. Mm-hmm. So I remember when you became superintendent, I was really excited about that for TPS for sure.
Yeah, that's why I tell people, not only just going through from a professional aspect, but being a student, knowing what it felt like on the other side. So when people talk about, well, how do you get to the point of calling snow days and all the other days? Because I remember as a student, I didn't appreciate when the superintendent had us out there walking and my shoes were getting messed up and everything else. I said, I'm not going to do that. And at the end of the day, I think it really balances you as a person when you have really been at various levels to know what it feels like when decisions are made. Whether you're a student, a teacher, a dean, assistant principal, and even assistant superintendent, when you make a decision, how did you feel when you were in that seat? Because the things that were appreciated when you were in the seat, are the things that are appreciated today.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I know for me, at the school that I used to work at Beneventure, we will always do our snow day based on TPS, and I would just be like, TPS, please close. And I was just like, wait, who's my boss? Is it Durant or because at this point I feel like Dr. Durant is my boss, and I would like get on Facebook and be like, Durant, please close. Like, or I would tag you on Facebook and be like, please close. So.
I will say you tend to close a little more than the school that I work for. And I'm like, man, can we take a little bit of advice from Dr. Durant? He knows what he's talking about.
Absolutely.
But you know what, though? You do have a unique challenge in Toledo, too, that you do have a lot of walkers. So it's not just about the roads, but it's about people driving on the roads and kids walking, like you said, through the snow or just driving down roads that kids are walking down. If it's slick and they lose control. Yes. Like those are challenges that I think a lot of us.
And if you recall, earlier in my tenure, I had came into position when the district had cut $100 million out of the budget. Or out of the district. So remember, we didn't have transportation.
Yeah. Right.
We didn't have athletics. We had cut a lot of programs, and we were cutting schools, cutting salaries, and all the other things. And so when you think about it, all kids were walkers. And you talk about the elementaries as well as the high schools, and high schools were using tartar for the most part. But what you found was a lot of kids walking in the street because the sidewalks were not, emptied, and because everyone was a walker, you had tons of kids moving through, and the community could see it, and they realized that was a huge issue, and so it was appreciative that the community has supported the district when it comes to levies and going to the polls.
Absolutely. Now, since you've become superintendent, there have been so many educational programs and initiatives to help improve education opportunities for TPS students. Out of those initiatives and opportunities, which have been your favorite so far, and why?
You know what? My favorite is just the whole magnet school strategy in regard to really creating unique schools. I tell people at the end of the day, you got to be more than the superintendent, because superintendents manage buildings. You got to be a CEO minded, understand how to have an ROI on what you do, meaning everything that we have done has a return on its investment. And because of that return, we told the community we would not go on ballot for 10 years asking for new money. and it's been 10 years, we still haven't asked the community for new money. Because many of the things that we're doing and taking tax-based dollars, we've created opportunity that is highly regarded, that has created a return on its investment to allow us to do the next opportunity. And that's the magnet school approach. So we now have several schools that completely focuses on industry credentials as well as college credits and college degrees that align to those credentials. So at the end of the day, a prime example is our Aerospace Natural Science Academy. Aerospace is at the airport. The school's not sitting in your neighborhood, it's sitting at the place of industry. And at the end of the day, 180th Fire Jet Wings and all the other officials who are within the aerospace career profession are interworking with our kids in ways that you would not get in a traditional community building. Right. But they can get airframe certification, a power plant certification. They start doing pilot training, pilot license at the age of 15. They can do their first solo flight at the age of 16. I want you to think about that. Many of us are just now getting our driver's license at 16, and this child is taking off and landing all on their own and getting a pilot license. And so it just really touches my heart, because one of the situations I just saw not too long ago, young man, I'm born and raised on the east side. There's 3 project houses in Birmingham Terrace, Ravine Park Village, and the Weiler Homes. And this young man lived in one of them, and you could see on his that he wears, his situation on his sleeves. And to see this young man flying an airplane, coming from the east side, coming from out of a project housing, really touches me, saying we are doing something special here, that kids who would get the least opportunities are having the most opportunities for the fact that they were being able to experience, because merely they're just going to school.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I absolutely. You have the, I know you started a barbershop program, which I thought was great. I think you often hear about like cos programs, but I was like, what a cool concept to do, like not just a cosmetology for hairdressers, but like the actual specialized barber. That was super cool. And then the medical school that you guys just started. Tell us a little bit about that.
The medical school, mom, dad, you listening, family, it'll save you $120,000, $150,000 in tuition and money. I'm telling you in essence, because I've done it and set forth, but what we do is re-roll out this program methodically. Right now it's 9 through 12. We'll eventually roll it down to 7s and 8s. But what kids would do is spend 1 year on our renovated campus over at the DeVilbiss location. They will white coat out into the hospital. So what they will do is spend 2.5 years of their teaching and learning in the hospital, not at the school sitting in the community, but within the culture of industry. So they're learning on the job while they're learning. How many of us got degrees that are in a field that's has nothing to do with our degrees? Right. And at the end of the day, you're doing a job and you're saying, well, I just learned on the job. So what if we took learning and put it at the job? Right. And so the kids wear scrubs to school. That's their uniform. We got them customized Crocs, and that's what they wear for the shoes. They throw every part of the hospital industry at the hospital itself. So when you think about industry and they say, well, we need to get internships, who do you think they're going to turn to? They're sitting right here in the hallway. And when they say we need an employment, they're going to go with what they know opposed to what they don't know. See, this kid knows, understands our culture, and has already been working with some of our people. It makes better sense to invest here than necessarily the one we don't know. And so this is the advantages that happen. And so within the medical space, these kids will become pre-med students in their junior year of high school. So again, they will account for 2 years of pre-med. And so what we've done is work with the university to help give them a presidential scholarship. So if they get a 3.9 or higher, Mercy said we'll give them a presidential scholarship, which means their final 2 years is free. That's a 4-year pre-med degree at no cost to you or the parents. When you have college loan debt, that is just astronomical, and it's surpassed the credit card debt, and people are enslaved to this debt for the rest of their lives. They're just paying off the interest, and they will never pay this loan off until that. And so what we do is try to empower parents that these opportunities exist, that your kid, one, gets firsthand, knowledge and internships as well as credentialing. But more importantly, you're getting college credits and associate degrees as well as advancement to a 4-year degree, and it's going to be at no cost to you, merely because you enrolled into the school. So that school, the pre-med, it fills up literally within weeks. We usually get about 200 applications. We can only put 75 slots in. At some point, we will expand the school to be able to take on 100 slots. But as of right now, we've just been scaling it and scaling it and scaling it. So we're operating efficiently and effectively, opposed to just taking on overly budgeting it and then not necessarily having the return that it necessarily needs to have to operate it.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's great.
It's amazing.
And I do hope parents are listening. That's like, and any of those industry credentials, I always tell the kids, you're walking out of high school with the ability to go make I call it big kid money. You're making a big kid paycheck. and not having to pay money for it. It's free. It's covered.
Well, you know, even the aerospace. So the aerospace, we have an exclusive relationship with Delta Airlines and American Airlines. We're one of few with Delta. Delta has the adoption of LaGuardia, New York, and Toledo. And American Airlines has adoption of ourselves. So the way they do it, they take the top 5 aviation mechanics and hire them, and American Airlines does the same with the piloting. They're hiring these kids at $60,000 a year, 401k match, paid holidays, and can go anywhere in the world. So what we've done with these magnet schools, what we did is when we identified why that career choice is because their highest employment opportunity is here. Because we want to educate you here, we want you to work here, but we want you to live here. That's a return on taxpayer dollars that broadens their tax base. So yes, we have an aviation school because we have an airport here. 45 minutes up the road, we have Detroit, and then you have Metcalf as well. Where else are they going to want to go? So all those kids stayed here. They could have went to Germany, Africa, Australia, everywhere that Delta is located. They offered them up to go, and they chose to stay here, which is great. But that's the beauty behind the science of leveraging industry that exists here, because that industry is going to hire them here. And at the end of the day, you get to enjoy your kids and their lives and how well they progress, watching it right unfold before your eyes.
Yeah. That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, great opportunity.
Now, being with all that said, you know, just last year, a couple of years ago, we finally returned back to the classroom due to the pandemic. So how has education changed for you in your position since COVID?
Well, you know, I think, you know, one of the positive things that have changed is this ability to communicate like you and I are doing right now. I could tell you I have doubled my load of meetings merely because of Zoom. Because I can get from point A to point B in seconds. Where before my secretary would always have to scale traveling time for me to get here, traveling time for me to get there, and who wants to be there. And so I'm literally able to cover a lot more territory merely for that fact, and I'm able to join more boards. So I sit on 14 community boards. So Zoom helped for me to get from one board and then knowing the next hour later I got to be over at the art museum board or whatever else that may be. Or really helped.
That.
Right. Beyond Toledo's hottest podcast.
You know.
That's right. And so that's for the positive. The negative of it all is that our kids and just people in general had been in such a secluded isolation during that period of time that at some degree they've lost social grace to some elements and have been foremost influenced more what they've seen on internet and social media and YouTube and whatever else that may be. And they find themselves emulating some of these things because they spent hours on top of hours of just pretty much engaged in that and not being able to have social activity and social interaction. School is a social interactive foundation, meaning these kids are methodically developing understanding for a social IQ. When people ask me, Dr. Grant, you got a good wealth of diversity with various people with socioeconomics and race and et cetera. Where'd you learn that? I said, University of Wade High School, because it was a diverse school. I said, You had various socioeconomics in that area because it's working class, project housing at the same time. Man, you didn't even know what race people are because everybody was intermingling and interacting in a way that, you know, you could have several different background heritage just in one, but the main thing is you truly got to understand what a child's going through or a friend going through, particularly knowing their home life, their home situation. And when you're out of touch with that, it's very hard to deal with. But at the end of the day, when you talk about the social interactions, kids not understanding, they got all the means to communicate, but can't communicate. So again, that face-to-face having conversations, how to get through disagreements as well as other things had been lost. And so I tell people the amount of time it takes to get into a situation, the amount of time it takes to get out of it. So no matter what it is, when intervention happens, it takes that same amount of time. So you got to put the work in to get returns, just like you put the work in to get into it. And that's kind of the thing that we're finding ourselves in. And hats off to educators across the country, as well as yourselves. You are in the trenches each and every day, experiencing those social elements that you recognize that, okay, I know I got to do this for the standards of the state of Ohio, but I recognize in you, I got to work on some things in there that you know you've been exposed to and you're dealing with, and that trauma is unleashing here in the classroom.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, and you know, with that being said, when it comes to teachers, you know, there's currently a national teacher shortage that's going on right now. So what incentives are you offering to bring in new teachers and staff to the district?
Yeah. So let's talk about this. So, you know, in reality, there's not a teacher shortage. there's a lack of teachers in the areas that we need. So in other words, we get a lot of teachers K-3 certified. That area is flooded. No one's teaching junior high. Like right now, you guys are considered high. You guys are premium. Everybody, you 7th and 8th, bring them. I'm ready to. I'm offering you jobs right now. You want to come to TBS? We need junior high teachers. You need math and science teachers, which are all there is, and then special ed.
Yep.
Every district across the country and the state are in need in these particular areas, and what you're getting is a common thread of people coming out K-3 certified, K-5, you know, and they did a disservice, which I understood because they narrowed it. You know, I'm a K-8 certified, so I could do anywhere from K-8. They had narrowed it down to K-3, and that's the only thing they're certified for many of them to do. And if you got a whole flood of people who are coming in there, it hurt that ability. But again, in regards to one, the state is trying to get more flexible on the licensure and recognizing, okay, we are finding ourselves in a bind. But two, we have to create opportunities. So what we're doing at TPS, so all the schools that we're talking about, by 2025, we'll have 10 magnet high schools. Again, magnet high schools are schools that have no boundary line. Kids come from all over. We draft from over 40 school districts in regards to coming to our magnet high schools. And the one that we're creating out of 10 is the Educator Academy. So the Educator Academy is going to run 7th through 12th grade. And at the end of the day, every kid comes in wanting to be a teacher, a firefighter, a police officer, because that's their exposure. Somewhere they lose that interest. We want to get at them earlier in age, manifest and mold that until where they stay as a teacher, 7th through 12th grade. And what we've done is worked out a plan for them to be able to get a 4-year degree, no cost to them, paid tutoring, learning the science of tutoring, not homework help, but tutoring. And at the same time, they do 60 hours of student teaching with us, their junior, senior of high school. Then they'll do their method and student teach with University of Toledo, meaning they have now more experience with a master trained teacher, more inventory going into their first year. At the same time, they would start off at 2 years of seniority and pay because we hired them at 18 years of age to be a para. You're going to work for us until you finish your degree. And when you finish your degree, you got 2 years of seniority. Now you're starting at a different rate of pay as a teacher as well. So those are all the different variations, science that we're putting into the school. And it's going to be located at Scott Park. Scott Park campus is going to be there. So it's going to have that school. It's going to have another magnet school, which is the Construction Trade Academy. And then we're going to add a third. So there'll be around 1,000-something kids who will be on that campus. Some will be educators. Some will be construction workers, and others will be the third choice that we decide upon. But we're working those things out with the university. When do you think the educator and the construction one's gonna? The educator construction is gonna start the fall 24. The Educator Academy was scheduled to start this fall. So what was originally going to happen was we were going to do the school at Gillum Hall, the College of Education at the University of Toledo. That's where we were originally, and then they were giving up. They wanted to get away from Scott Park. So we realized that location was much more scalable to be able to do 7 through 12. Yeah. At the same time, the bus loop that runs over there would still navigate and take our kids right over to Gillum Hall. Mm-hmm. So it really helped ourselves and be able to have a home to ourselves, as well as we get all the baseball diamonds, as well as all the other things that come with it. So we're excited about it. But construction trade, as well as the Educator Academy, will start the fall of 2024. We will get that out to parents in regards to signing up. Understand what I tell people in regards to these magnet schools. The uniqueness about it is at the end of the day, one, not only are they industry driven based on a career pathway, but two, like I tell parents, these are public schools with private privileges, meaning mom and dad, your kids are going to compete to get in, they're going to compete to stay in, and you got accountability just as well, or they'll be right back at their community school, which a lot of parents are looking for nowadays. And the whole essence, what that does, allows us to be competitive to the private school space, particularly in the state of Ohio, that's moving much more to a voucher orientation. And when you see that, how do you compete with that? Well, you start creating and generating your own. And so we'll have 10 of them that the community is really buying into. So we have kids traveling from Findlay, Defiance, Pike Delta. I mean, they're traveling an hour each way to school based on the opportunity they get at the school.
Wow. Which is awesome. I like that. Public school with private privilege.
I love
that. That is good. That's a great. You need to put that on like a t-shirt. I don't know. Maybe it already is on a t-shirt. I don't know. I have to say, when I did my student teaching, one of the classes I student taught was teaching professions, which was super cool because I was student teaching kids how to be teachers. So we were kind of like all learning together at the same time, and it was such a cool, just that one class. And I had juniors and seniors as a career tech class, and it was such a fun thing. I can only imagine how. Well,
think about this. One of the things that we're doing with them, we've already started uniquely designing it. Is think about this. Both of you are doing planning, but in the school, your planning is happening while the kids are sitting in the room, and they're part of the actual planning because they got to learn how to plan for themselves. And they're part of the demonstration of their instruction. So now they begin to realize why you are saying we got to do this first, because you might not want to do it as a student, but now you're in the realization because at some point when you're in that seat, you're going to be doing the same exact thing in regards to putting things in tandem order that allows you to scale according to the standard itself. And so that's the neat thing about it, is that you don't have to wait till your gym, your art, and your specials to get your planning. Your planning is an actual period within the school day, and the kids are talking about, okay, what's the anticipatory lesson? What materials do we need to have for this lesson, and how are we going to methodically go about differentiation of instruction and so forth, which allows these kids to really engage at a higher level, because one, it allows them to be more in tune, because I created this. So I should be, more passionate about learning it just as much as I'm going to do it myself at some point as well.
And I feel like that changes the mindset of what planning actually is, because a lot of teachers, when they think planning, they think it's a breakaway for my kids. Like, please go to gym, go to music. This time it's actually like, we enjoy having planning.
Yeah,
I like my planning.
Honestly,
period.
it was my favorite class to student teach. I loved it, and the kids were great because they wanted to be teachers. So there was never any pushback about anything. They were so excited to do everything we did, and it was a cool class. Cool.
I mean, and think about that. And so let's take that for a second and unpack that. That passion you talk about those kids having is because they were learning within the industry that they are pursuing.
Yes.
It's that same passion that an aviation kid has when they are within the industry that they're pursuing, and the medical person who's in the hospital within the industry they're pursuing. So every one of them has a different drive and motivation. These kids were motivated about becoming educators, so they were excited to just do this. Oh, we're gonna do planning today. Oh, we doing planning today, and and I want to teach.
They love it. They're like, look, I can't wait to make a bulletin. Is it my turn to make a bulletin board? Like, they love that part. I was like, yes. That's cool. I like that.
That's super dope.
Yeah.
So, speaking of, we're talking about how COVID kind of changed everything. What advice would you provide to teachers who may be considering leaving the field due to the stress from the teacher shortage?
You know what? I would say grind it out. Continue to look to each other for support, as well as administration. I kind of always tell teachers, you run into a hard time and things don't seem like you're getting supported at the building level, then you need to email me. I said, because I'll be the first to stop over. And that's one of the things I always like to do as a principal, was poke into every room. And in the same way as a superintendent, and getting around to the 54 locations, and getting out there. And so I think the main thing is that to understand in regards to when you talk about a state of intervention, just as I stated a little bit ago, is that it took 2.5 years to get us to this situation. And it takes about that same amount of time to get it out. At the end of the day, you're almost there in that sense of really finally getting to the point of getting out, because some kids really had to be reorientated about how school is and how school. And I even in my mentorship group, I had to start all over and rebuild, because the building process of the mentorship group started in elementary. And because of the COVID and the isolation, we weren't able to recruit in the elementary. So by the time I got to high school, we missed the opportunity of really captivating when they were young, which, our group was around 2,500 strong. We ended up, losing about half of that because half of them graduated out. And then we had a new group coming in that we didn't have the exposure to. And so, again, it's really getting back to the basics of methodically, just as you do each in the beginning of the year. I think it's thinking about that, what that looks like in essence of other scalability opportunities, in essence of how you go about doing some of that. So I think keep your head up, keep grinding. At the end of the day, find those students within that room that really kind of restores your energy and really strives and motivates you, as well as then other professors or teachers for that matter. But that would kind of be my advice. And then at the same time, find a way to, do those things exterior. So right now we do, it's kind of like sip and paint, but it's called sip and pastry. And so they really love doing art and painting. We set up exhibits. We're going to be meeting at the art museum in a couple of weeks, doing it again. we try as a district to be creative, finding opportunity for them to unwind. And sometimes everybody doesn't have their own mindset of how that looks, and so you have to create it. But that's what I would advise: find that way of unwinding. Like for instance, the minute we get done, I'm gonna finish a little bit of work. I'm right back at the office. I'm gonna go work out because we got a gym there, and that workout really allows me to unwind. You know what I mean? So it allows me to get it off my chest, and at the same time, it's something I fundamentally came up with because of football. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like that to me type thing, and it allows me to really exert energy and not be as intense as I could be.
Absolutely. And we talked about this last Friday on the podcast about the importance of self-care and mental health as a teacher. And so I think a lot of teachers are, they're so passionate about what they do is that they don't take that time to pour into them. So if you don't pour into yourself, you can't pour into nobody else. So
that's right.
I believe that was a direct quote from Mental Health Matters.
I told you
if you want to check out Mental Health Matters by Miss Amy. But no, I think, and I like what you said, because I think a lot of us forget that it took, you say a year and a half. I would say this is probably our first full school year. Because even last school year, there was some time off and some learning from home for little bits of time. This is the first school. So I'm going to go 2 years to get into it.
Right.
That's 2 years. And I think remembering that as an educator is hopeful because, I think I looked at it and like said, like, if you are a current 7th grader, you're really functioning in a current 5th grade level right now, as far as social emotional development, because they, like you said, lost that for 2 years. And that to me is really encouraging, just to remember, hey, it's going to take some time to get back to not even where we were, because obviously the world changed, but to a good space where kids are used to being in school.
Yeah. And it's just a matter of just keeping the faith. And at the same time, you got to develop a system around you that does not allow the invitation of negativity.
Yeah.
If you're just scrolling through social media, Facebook has already said, if you spend above an hour, 2 hours on time, you're going to find yourself in depression and other things, which is why they're in the lawsuit they're into to this day right now. And the thing about it is, so, with social media, people say, oh, Dr. Durant, you're always on social media. I'm a content contributor.
Right.
I'm not an engager. You see, so when I engage, that means I got to sit and listen to all the messages and sit and listen to people's negativity and sit and engage at different things that I see coming back and forth. I get in and I get out, because at the end of the day, I don't look for that. I don't read certain things. So people say, oh, I seen you on TV. I said, I have never watched a recording ever.
Yeah.
I have no idea how that recording went. I have no idea, however, because at the end of the day, I don't read the newspaper. I don't read other things. I find I get my value system and my news differently. And then when I get my communication, I always get a good sense of regard to how did the article go and et cetera. But what I do is I try to keep those negativities out of my way. And, one thing my dad always told me is that at the end of the day, don't worry about the bone, but worry about who brought you the bone. And one of the things I always say is that if you bring me a bone, what did you do to defend myself within retrieving that bone within itself? And I think at the end of the day, when you start putting yourself and surrounding yourself with people who understand in regards to what you want in your life, and the negativity is something to remove. I mean, if you got family members who are bringing negativity in your life, you got to cut them loose. If you got people that are close and attached, you got to cut them loose. Yeah. And at the end of the day, you got to know when to cut your losses and really begin to rebuild for yourself. Because at the end of the day, there's a brighter picture for you down the road.
Right. Absolutely.
What did I just hear? A social media influencer said there's no bunk beds in the coffin. Yep. And I was like, that right there actually says a lot, because ultimately in the end, it's you and what's best for you. And I don't watch the news either. That's something else I talked about. I don't watch the news. I had to stop watching the news when I became a counselor. I hear things. I hear the worst of the worst every day in people's lives. Yeah. I can't go home and then again watch more news and hear I'll catch it here and there, but I can't read an article. I can't watch a whole report. And like you said, keeping the positivity. I like that. That's really important.
Well, and he's a content contributor, so now I know why he doesn't respond back to my statuses about
you know what? I do like your content, because I will say, if I am on Facebook, and that's how I know about a lot of the initiatives that you have, because that's the stuff that makes me smile. Like I scroll through, and when I see your leader kids that are doing leadership things, or your mentor kids doing the mentoring things, and all the initiatives, that makes me smile, because that's the positivity that we need to see.
Right. And that's the thing of how you set up, not only how you physically set people up in regard to who's in your space, but even social media, as you said, I follow certain people. And so the things that really bring a heartwarming message to me is the people I follow. So their thing always seems to come up, and I'm always getting a message and a narrative through that. But, yeah, I mean, I think that's the case on point, and that's why I put in my thing, in my social media. It says right underneath my picture, the best way to get a hold of me is email. Do not message me out here. I don't even have Messenger out here because it's just.
Hey, don't tell him that, because when it comes to snow days, he's gonna start blowing up your email.
Yeah.
Oh, they already do it now. I mean,
I'm gonna send it
little
Monday nights.
Well, here's the thing is, and you made it off. You just said it a little bit ago when you said, I don't know if Dr. Durant was superintendent or responsible, because I got kids from so many school districts messaging me saying, Dr. Durant, you do it, they'll do it. They're going to do what you do. And
You're the leader of the snow days.
I'm like, you just putting all the pressure on me. I mean, what did the boys, I was like, what's, yeah. So, I said, what school you go to? He said, such and such. Why are you calling? Why are you messaging me?
Because we know you're the leader.
Right.
By the way, we need a good fog day between now and the end of the year.
I remember at the previous school I was at, and so I used to just like literally, if I would see TPS, I would just go back to sleep because I already knew it was coming. And I remember one time we didn't see TPS. Oh, we were in school like that damn Durant. Like, you didn't call it. So now everybody's got an attitude about Dr. Durant. He's not even our boss.
Right. He's
not. And that's a true story everywhere.
Yes.
Oh, the pressure. I can't even imagine.
Yeah. And the thing about it, I tell people they don't realize that on those days, there's no sleeping. Yeah. Because, I'm in communication with the transportation department at midnight, and they're constantly reporting throughout the hours what the side roads look like, what all the other places look like, and we have to make a decision by about 5:30 because, like I told you, we have kids traveling an hour each way.
Yeah.
So you literally have to get ahead of it because, they started saying, hey, Dr. when you call the school, it's 6 o'clock. I know that's early, but we've already been on the road. And is there any way you can call it earlier? So that's why we had to call it even earlier. And so you see now, most of the time, I'll call it a day ahead of time. Like, look.
And you get to sleep.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
I love it.
Yeah. So speaking of, just how dope and awesome you are. So we saw today that there was a story in the Blade. You did a presentation downtown at the Rotary yesterday afternoon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about that?
Yes, exciting time. I'm a Rotarian myself, and so we had all the business leaders, community social activists, all the leaders in the room. We were scaling at around 300 individuals there, and so what I did was speak about the state of innovation with a new way of public education. Let's talk about these 10 magnet schools. Let's talk about how innovative they are and how they're different from the traditional mindset of how we've created schools in the past. I mean, at the end of the day, when we talk about our ancestors, if they were to show up in our school today, they would say, this is no different than when I went to school. But at the end of the day, now they're coming in, and our ancestors came to our magnet school. They were like, whoa, this is a different change of environment. At the end of the day, you got all these airplanes, we got all these animals, reptiles in our natural science. The Business Academy has its own investment lab with ticker symbols flashing throughout the entire school. At the same time, the pre-med, the engineering school, the EV and electronic vehicles, and all the other things that come into play. But so what I do is I walk the business community in essence of, one, these are magnet schools. They had no boundary lines. You can live anywhere to go here. Two, in regard to its opportunity, in regard to certification, credentialing, as well as college credits and degrees at no cost to you, which really sets your kids up for success when they have financial freedom much earlier in life. So as I talk to you, if you had kids and you're saying, well, Dr. Durant, you know what? I invest in a 529 in my child's college fund. I said, yeah, I get several parents like that. And you know what? I rework it for them because I'm very big in investments. I said, roll that out of 529, put it into a custodial account for your child. Tell them they can't have access to that money until they're 30. Continue to contribute to it just as you thought they were going to pay for college. Send them to one of these schools. Your kid will get a college degree for free. And when they graduate, you say you can't take it out until they're 30. Put it in the S&P 500. They'll have almost $500,000 sitting there. If your child can't succeed with that type of start, then there's a problem.
Yeah.
Compared to the general kid who just got paid for a diploma and paid for a college degree, and at the end of the day is owing $60,000 to $100,000 trying to get above water, and and at the end of the day there's a huge difference. And so I think it's really being mindful and thoughtful. And so these are the things that we're communicating with the business community and their involvement within the schools. where many of them are, and those who are not, I told them to bring a team there, hear what we're talking about, and then begin to plan and say, how can we get involved to do some innovative things as well? And so we've already been in contact with several who were there yesterday, and they were really starting to think outside the box because they recognize everything that we were doing makes great sense, but at the same time, it's doing things differently and it's thinking outside the box. And in a sense, you're thinking outside the box. We want to think outside the box with you because we need employees just like everybody else.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we're doing. And even what you're doing right now is, at Scott High School, we had a broadcasting program for disc jockeys and other things. Like this isn't today's era. This isn't today's time. We ain't got DJs like we used to. So we shut it down, rebuild it, and now it's going to be the social media influencer program. Now, how do you go about doing podcasting? Yeah, you're going to use this broadcast studio, use it for podcasting. You're going to use this radio station. We could still have our jazz station, but let's use it for what you would do to make money as an entrepreneur. And understand that these people aren't on here on YouTube winging it. They got a schedule. They have topics. Just like you guys are talking about education, next week you'll have another topic and you'll have somebody choreography and all the things. There's a business behind that. And that's what we're trying to teach the kids.
Because we definitely don't wing any of this.
No. It might seem like we wing it, but we do plan, I swear.
This is top level. This is top level. This is the Mud 419. This is top level stuff.
Right?
Yes, you heard it here first. Mud talk, baby. Yes.
Dr. Durant, the Barack Obama of
Toledo
says Mud talk top notch.
Yes.
I heard that.
I love it. Yes.
I gotta get this again.
I got one more question.
Okay, I'm gonna get my game going.
All right. So one last question, Dr. Durant. So
yes, sir.
We've seen a lot recently increase in youth violence amongst here in Toledo. How do you think we as a community can help address this problem?
You know what? Get involved in mentorship. So next year, I'm already starting. I already got investors. So I told you about my mentorship group. I'm expanding it. We were at one time 2,500 strong. The goal is to get to 5,000 strong. And at the end of the day, what I do is I formally dress every child. Every child gets bow ties, dress ties, vests, with our shield that sits on there. It speaks to young men of excellence. I take them to all events. So in other words, the meeting that we had at Rotary, we were 20. I brought 20 with us. And at the end of the day, I had them doing the meet, greet, open the doors, had them do the Pledge of Allegiance, did the prayers, and at the same time, we do our call outs. So the goal is that we're going to expand this operation. Already got donors, but what I need is more male leaders wanting to get involved into life. Women, listen, I run a men's group and a women's group. I probably got 10 advisors for the women's group for every chapter. Yeah. You name the chapter, there's several of them. Women come out of the woodwork to support each other in regards to mentorship. Men, it's hard to get that commitment. It's hard to say, hey, I need you to commit to these kids right here, at least once a week, once a month, that you're willing to meet with them. And then every month we meet as a Saturday meeting. And so that is a challenge. So here's how the challenge. I have women leading some of the men's group.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And they're running strong with them too. They're running strong with these young men too. And the young men respect them highly, but that's not necessarily what we're trying. We want men to start having influences as well, because these kids need to see in essence of how they need a role model just as well. And so those are the struggles. So, what I need and what I would ask for is a call out to say, hey, contact Dr. Durant at rdurant@tcs.org. First initial, last name. He responds to all his emails in 24 hours, always. And I will respond and connect you with one of the chapters. And what we'll do is take you through our core values, how this works, all the things that we do with the kids as we do a year-long activity. And we want to be able to expand that to 5,000 strong. So what I do is I take them on field national trips. I put them on a bus. Like, let's just say you guys, Mud Talk has a conference. People come from all over. I will show up with 2 bus loads with 100 kids deep, all dressed in black, bow ties, and they're just on one command, almost kind of like you see in the movie Malcolm X. And that's what it gets them all motivated, because I start doing the call outs, they start echoing, and you hear us coming. And that's what I love about that. And that's the excitement in that sense of that camaraderie of socially getting together for positivity opposed to socially getting together for negativity.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's not about being on that slide and hitting them up. It's about being over here trying to make things of each other, because at the end of the day, we hang with wolves, we become wolves. You're an average of your association, and we want these kids to have a high network because of their net worth.
Absolutely.
What age do you start that? What do you start mentoring the kids?
So we started down in 3rd and 4th. We started adding 3rd into there, but they go 4th through 12th grade. And what we do is we get them in elementary, so when they get to high school, there's no selling it to them. They already are locked in. They're looking for it. Who's the chapter advisor at the high school? And that's what gets it and really keeps it strong, particularly because we want them to mentor the younger ones, and then the younger ones strive to want to be in their young chapter to go up to the senior chapter.
Mm-hmm. Sweet. Yeah. All right.
So mentors needed, and we'll shout that out again when we air this. I don't know where he's going, but we are going to play a game. So we do play little games here, and this game is all education related. It's called This or That. Okay. So I'm going to give you 2 topics, education related, and you got to tell me which one you would pick. Okay. All right. So the first one is: would you rather this or that? Cleaning the whole school becomes one of your duties, or serving lunch to one of the schools becomes one of your duties every day?
I would like to serve lunch every day, but I'm a neat freak. So some of you know me. I'm very OCD. So I probably would enjoy that just as much. But I'm going to say lunch because cleaning is one thing, but meals is a necessity. And if there's anything I want to make sure that you have is a meal, because I could clean any day, but the meal is something that I need to make sure because I personally is the one seeing to it that you were able to eat.
Perfect. And it's a social time, so you could talk to kids. Okay, so would you rather have a parent of students live in your shoes for a week or have a politician live in your shoes for a week?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
We have some tough questions here.
I got to do this and that. Well, I would say a politician, because sometimes with many of your parents, if you're connected in the way that you should, they understand where you're coming from. And at the end of the day, that's why I use social media, because they recognize that my motor never stops. And I'm going to keep going, keep pushing for us. And so many of them just have that appreciation where the politicians are completely out of touch, are completely sitting at the Eiffel Towers and are making decisions totally out of touch and how that impacts. So when I told you what makes me effective in this job is because I've been at every position and know what it feels like as a student, a teacher, building administrator, assistant superintendent, and then the superintendent. At the end of the day, when you have felt that in that career, then your decision is a little bit different. And so when you're a politician, you're completely out of touch to reality, particularly when you come to inner city environment that you wouldn't walk through. So how could you possibly bond with? So yeah.
And I never quite understood. Those politicians are the same people who make decisions on our educational law.
Right.
So that just blows my mind. So yeah, they're definitely.
Just wait till I become the Secretary of Education.
Hello.
I have a former student of mine who insisted he was going to become the president, and I said, "Well, when you're the president, I'm the Secretary of Education."
There you go.
So it's coming. I don't know.
You're not going to be. What was her name? Betsy DeVoe. She was the Secretary of Education.
Well, she was Dr. Cardona. Yeah. Dr. Cardona is now the new with the new president. But
that's what I was just saying. Don't become Betsy DeVoe.
No, I'm not out of touch. I'm still in education, so I'm here. I'm in it.
Thank you.
Okay, so dealing with a bad day, would you rather, or not even a bad day, a tough day, would you rather have coffee or chocolate to get through that day?
So I'm a health freak. I've never had coffee in my life, so I can't say that. And it would be chocolate, obviously, out of the two, but I try to maintain my.
Fan? Healthy people like dark chocolate.
That's what I would eat, more like peanut butter, because I go for the protein in the peanut butter. But I don't eat a whole lot of chocolate. I try to keep my sugar count around 36 a day. And so, I track it all the time. So it's so funny because I track my sugar count just to be healthy.
Yeah.
I was with this kid, and the kid, during Easter, he's like, "Oh, I can't get it to you." I was like, "Why?" "My mama said you were diabetic." I'm like, "What?"
That's funny.
What are you talking about? I'm not a diabetic. She said, "You watch your sugar." I watch my sugar, but I'm not a diabetic.
Look, I can eat that candy. That's funny.
You wouldn't give me no chocolate. He's like, "I can't get it to you."
That's funny.
That is funny.
We had a hard time coming up with that question too, about the drink question, because we was like, "Does Dr. Does he drink?" And we was like, "We probably shouldn't ask that question."
I was gonna say a glass of wine. I was gonna say a glass of wine or chocolate, but
I've never had alcohol or coffee. Never had alcohol in my life. Never had a desire to have it. And it serves me well. But people say, "Well, wine is good for you." I'm like, I just don't have a desire. Like I tell people, you always say, "Your teacher's so white." I said, I haven't had anything other than water for the last probably 15
that's all
so years.
Not even
water.
Like unsweet tea,
water.
hot tea.
I'll put amino acids in my water, so that at least give me a little bit of taste. But the whole idea is to have amino acids so it helps rebuild and recover for a long day of work or something. So
I need to come and hang out with you and get healthy for one day.
Yeah.
Like I feel like everything you're telling me. I mean, I know I should do it all, but
it might change our life.
I love peanut butter and chocolate. I rationalize that Snickers is an appropriate meal. Oh, sorry, that was it. There's a chocolate bar that has peanuts in it that is a full meal because it has chocolate and it has protein.
Right.
I feel like that.
Yes. Did you Google that?
I used to teach nutrition. Don't judge me.
I was just asking a question.
I used to teach nutrition. I do know how to have good nutrition. All right, so here's the next one. You are short-staffed. Would you rather have to cover in-school suspension for the day or study hall for the day?
So I would say in-school suspension because those type of kids I love. Coming from a disciplinary background and household, and and obviously the East Side, I build rapport much more. So when I did my student teaching, I said I don't want an outer line TPS school or what I want an inner city school. That's how I ended up at Nathan Hale, and so I gravitate to them much more. So that would be definitely something because that's that thing of getting through, and which is why I said I went to education just through that. Is that for whatever reason there seems to be a bond and understanding between myself and kids who are going through challenges. So I would definitely say I would love to do that.
I would probably pick in-school suspension too. I like a little action every now and then in my classroom.
I don't even need action. I'm like
a little bit. I'm not talking nothing crazy.
In study hall, you get some action too, but not. I mean, listen, I was assigned to chaperone a study hall. It was the worst duty I ever had to do in my life. But then when they used to put me in school suspension, I'm like you. Yeah. I give me all the children that can't make good choices, and those are my favorites. And I like to just have those tough conversations. Yes. There will be no action in my school suspension because I'm not playing with you. Well, there will be no action.
I'm not talking about like fighting and throwing chairs.
There's no action.
No, we don't do that, and not in Mr. Cleveland's class.
Right? No, not me either.
Right.
Okay, so in order to relax and unwind, would you rather have on site in your office a free professional masseuse to be able to give you a massage, or a free on-site professional chef?
So, well, I don't like being in the office. If you try to catch me there, you're not going to catch me.
We're home, Homer office.
Okay. I would say chef because, because of my diet is so strict, that I would want somebody who understands and able to provide that. I mean, and cooking requires a lot of time, and so to be able to have someone do that really gives me a lot of my time back in essence of providing something in a meal, opposed to resorting to a protein bar or a protein drink. Constantly on the run. I'm actually able to organize more meals in my day. Yeah.
Well, when I go into my private professional chef business, I'll let you know. Because that may be my retirement career. I haven't decided yet, but I'm like, man,
there you go.
So my last one is this: summer break. Yeah. Would you rather have a break at a beach or break at like a nice state park where you can see like mountains and trails and hiking?
You know what? I would say the beach. Again, everything's always health related. Where at the beach, sometimes because you live in the Midwest, you lack a lot of vitamin D3. And so would you be surprised at how much it impacts your immune system? And for me to be on this type of run all the time, I really have to be conscious of my immune system. So I always keep a certain milligrams of my vitamin C and vitamin D3, which most people leave out because you naturally get it from sunlight. So if I'm able to get it naturally, I'd rather have it naturally so I don't always have to rely on always having to take a pill or whatever else to get D3. So that would be my reasoning. But again, it's all scientifically based. Yeah. Like I said, this is all science.
I like it. Did you teach science? I feel like that was that your specialty.
Well, elementary, you taught it all. So I taught all the subjects in elementary. So
yeah.
He just gave us a very superintendent answer of, I just want to show my arms off at the beach.
Right.
That was a very superintendent answer. He just want to show off his guns while he's at the beach.
I was just thinking like him and I, because that was also in my mental health minutes about how I talked about vitamin D is the only one you can get for the sun. And it's one of the vitamins primarily responsible for positive mental health.
Facts.
Yeah. There you go.
All right, you got any more questions?
That was it.
That
Those
was
are
it.
this and that. Yeah,
Well,
I kept it clean.
that was easy.
That
was good. So proud of you.
Aren't you?
Yes. Well, we appreciate you so much, Dr. Durant, for doing this interview here on Mud Talk. We appreciate you more than you know. We salute you for everything that you are doing in Toledo and for our TPS babies and Toledo community in general. And like I said, you are the Obama of Toledo. Yeah. So I'm gonna put that on Facebook and then tag him in it. So
he's not gonna read it.
I was gonna say he probably won't respond, but just
know. Well, I'll tell you what. Now, if you have something and you send it to me through my email, I will always share it. Yes. Because I'll at least get it or whatever. But trying to find it is what the challenge. But I appreciate what you do. Again, you are about the positivity of news in regard to what it means to be from the mud, the 419, and really celebrating that just in the naming of the podcast. In regard to you are every bit of what you represent, and so hat goes off to you not only in regards to the podcast and the work you do behind that, but also within the field of education, because it's a selfless profession that you're there to serve others other than yourself, and many times you find yourself serving others much more than you do your own self. Absolutely. And so keep up doing God's work, and anyway I can be a support to you. Maybe I'll consider a couple more snow days just for you. Say this is for Mud Talk.
It won't impact me, but when we're done with this, I might give you the name of the superintendent I work for. We don't talk about that on here, but then you can give him a call. And
okay.
Thank you so much. Make sure you check out the Mud Talk podcast on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify, Pandora Radio, and Sirius XM Radio as well.
iHeartRadio,
YouTube, Amazon, and of course. Many Faces is the home of the Apple charted podcast. Mud Talk was actually number 112 on the Apple charts.
And that's from the Toledo brand? Is this
yes.
Congratulations. Wow, look at that.
Thank you. Yes, also support Black Lido, which is the sponsor of...
Where's the camera? There you go.
Of Many Faces Podcast Studio. Yep. Thank you, Dr. Durant. Remember, Mud Talk is the only show that brings you latest in music, news, and fashion. The only show that keeps your ears to the streets.
While you grind in the 419.
Thank you so much, Dr. D. We appreciate you.
Appreciate you as well. You guys have a good one.
Yep. You too.
Have a good evening.
Yep.
That was cool. That was really good. I like Dr. Durant. I like him a lot. He is really down to earth, really cool, all about the kids.
Yeah,
man. That was
and the programs are in. I don't know. You want to go click that real quick because it says wait. Just hit wait.
It's not going to restart.
Are you sure?
This is my.
Oh, okay. I'm confused. But I'm just here to.
Yes. You worry about the camera, and I got this.
Right. No, but the magnet school idea, and just where we're going industry is. I think we're recognizing and realizing that not everybody's path is college.
Yes.
And that even if your path is college. To get the industry credentials and start working your big kid job and making big kid money and getting that college degree will provide you so many opportunities. Like what he was talking about, that is next level.
Yes.
And that is such a resource for our area. Mm-hmm. And so, if you didn't hear what he had to say, they currently they have an aviation program. They have
construction program.
Construction's coming soon. Education. That's the barber. So they've had cosmetology for a while, but barber, they added on to that. Broadcasting, podcasting, what do you say? Social media influencing.
Social media influencer.
I mean, there's just so many up and coming professions where you can walk out of school with your industry credential, meaning people can hire you on the spot. I mean, he was talking about 18-year-olds making $60,000 starting out. 18. I would have given my left arm to. I was paying $60,000 when I was 18, getting my college degree. And so it's so much more acceptable now just to be able to see that everybody's got different paths. And so
I think it's dope that they are giving those different paths. So, just like, for instance, so you have some kids who may just want to get their high school diploma and they graduate, and you have some kids who want to go into the trades or the college bound. Like, there's so many different ways to graduate instead of just the typical traditional one that most schools have. Uh-huh. That is part of the problem of why kids act up in school, because you are forcing them to learn a way that may not be for them.
Well, and
so for example, you may have a kid who, before all this even happened, you may have a kid who may have been into aviation, but there was no program, so they had to just do the traditional high school way. But now that kid is causing problems in school.
High school, then college. So it's like then you have to go do all and now it's like you can walk out just having that training.
And these kids are actually like participating in what they want to do and not what they are forced.
And I like the way, so like basically a lot of this, I will give, not that we give our state a lot of credit, but our state has changed the graduation requirements. And I like the magnet school is leaning into that. You know, you can't just graduate, you can't just take classes, get good grades and graduate now. You have to get your credits and pass certain state tests. And you have to get certain what they call seals, which is could be career tech, could be industry credentials. It could be taking specific classes. It's very much more individualized.
Yeah.
Every kid has to have an individualized graduation plan. So we're individualizing that, and he's leaning into it. He's saying, okay, here's what the state requires. Let's make this the best and most affordable. Yeah. Like I'm sitting here listening to him talking. I'm like, I got 2 kids that have 0 college money coming. I'm about to send my 2 kids to one of the programs. Yeah. You know, and I had already actually talked to somebody that works for the medical one. That's how I knew. And I was like, man, I need to get my kids. You know, my daughter's thinking about nursing, and I'm like, we may need to check that out. You know?
Yeah. No, that was really dope, and I'm so just happy that we have someone who is in that position, making change. And like you said, like I don't even like being in my office. So that means that he's coming out of his office and he's involved in the community and seeing what we need and what needs to change.
And he came from the community.
Yeah, he came from the community.
And like I said earlier, that's what I respected when he got that position, was that he born, raised, grew up, went to college here, taught elementary all the way through. I mean, he went all the way up through the ages. And I think that is something that not a lot of towns and communities can say.
Yeah.
That they have somebody that he is literally from the mud. He is literally here, and that is where, and that's why it's understandable.
Well, and you know what's crazy is a lot of people don't even know who their superintendent is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
the fact he says what do you say, 56 buildings that he pops into classrooms as often as he can.
As he can, yes.
And I mean, that's great.
And came on Mud Talk. So how often does that happen? You know what I'm saying? So just the fact that we have a superintendent who is so relatable to the community, like I think that's so dope, and I think that's why he has continued to be in the position that he's been in. Yeah. So shout out to Dr. Durant. I like him.
I do too.
He almost made me want to make a transfer.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I was sitting there like,
but it ain't happening.
I'm pretty sure we both just got a job offer there.
I think we did. I mean, but if he ever needs Mud Talk to come and stream an event or do whatever, we're here.
And also, if you're hearing this, he needs mentors.
Yes.
And we've heard now 3 different people talk about solutions to. This is the question I think we get asked most often to talk about on Mud Talk. What do? We have a lot of youth violence happening in our community, and every day, if you are watching the news, turning on social media, it's really, really sad to see, and that's not what we want for our community. Yeah. And we heard a councilwoman talk about how they're addressing the beautification of the neighborhoods and getting rid of some of the places that make it easier for people to have, to participate in those things that are going on. Yeah. We heard from Officer Green. He talked about how it starts at home, and we have to start at home and get into the homes and realize that parenting is a thing that we may have to look at different ways of parenting kids. Yeah. And now we heard Dr. Durant say, and from an educational point of view, mentoring. And I asked him, and I did ask on purpose, like, what age do you start that? Because I feel like at this stage we have kids that are real young they're easily swayed at a young age. And I like that he said they're starting in 3rd grade, and he said by the time they get to high school, I'm envisioning you got adults mentoring, and you also probably have the high school kids mentoring the 3rd graders.
Yes.
I always tell young kids that I work with, and when kids that are younger than you look at you, I don't care how much younger than you they are. If you're older than them, you're the coolest human on the planet. Mm-hmm. They're going to do what you do. And so I think just having that mentoring, he's going to try to go from 2,500 to 5,000, which means he needs mentors, and he needs male mentors. And I'm gonna go one step further, because I know this, because I have run in a mentoring program. He needs Black male mentors.
Yes.
And I can say that because I have run a mentoring program, and that is what I struggled finding is Black male mentors, because you can find female. He's right. Female mentors. There are so many. They're plentiful. We love. Thank you, women, for doing in our part. You can even find a lot of mentors of some, not a lot, but there are male mentors that tend to be of other races. But what is the hardest is to find Black male mentors, and that I believe is going to have the biggest impact on, especially a big portion of the culture and community that are in TPS.
Yeah, and the thing with that is something that he said is that he's had women run the men program meetings, and to me that stuck out because think about some of the households that some of our kids come from. Sometimes it's just mostly the mother
coming from a female matriarchal household.
And so now I'm thinking, well, I'm going to go to school, and this is called Young Men of Excellence. I should see a young man of excellence leading this group.
Correct.
And then I come in, and then I see a young woman.
Yeah. And that's not to say, because I mean, I can say in my educational career, I am one of those women who work very, very well influencing and impacting the adolescent males that I have worked with.
Yeah.
But that does not substitute for the fact that they need to have male mentors.
Absolutely.
Every male.
Because if you think about it, if they're going to school and they're like, I already see a woman all day, which is my mother. Then I get to school, my teacher may be a woman.
Oh, there's a majority of my teachers that are probably female because education is at this stage most, especially younger education. I mean, as you get in the older ages, there typically can be a lot more males,
dominant.
But it is female dominant, younger.
But everybody from the gym teacher to the gen ed teacher to the lunch people are all women. And so now when I come to a program that's called Young Men of Excellence, and now I don't even see a man. I see a woman.
Yep.
You know, so they need men.
Yep. He said to reach out to him on his email. He answers every email in 24 hours. If you at all want to have an impact in the life of somebody, you know, that's a great opportunity. Just to be able, and I come across people all the time. They're like, man, I got stuff to say to kids, you know. And I think some of the best people are people that I've had come in and do presentations. I would say twice a month at most. They do a mentoring meeting and they meet with the kids once a month. I mean, it could be more than that. It sounded like, but it sounds like minimum maybe twice a month.
Right.
That's not a lot. To especially and here's where I'm at. If I don't want to hear anybody else whining on social media about what are we going to do in this community if you're not going to step up and have a positive influence.
Absolutely.
There it is. That's what you do. You go in and you say, if it's not your calling, there are other things you can do. Not everybody's good with working with people.
You don't have to directly work with the children.
Right.
You can do things behind the scenes. So if a program says that they need snacks, you can donate snacks to the program. If you know, if they are saying like, hey, just come and read a book to a child just one time. Like, you don't have to be direct with a mass group of kids
all the time or one
mentoring.
And so those of you that are gifted that way, mentor. If not, and you know, if you are not contributing to any type of assistance in this community, if you are going to not step up and do whatever your gifting is. So if you're good at art, you know, maybe there's some art stuff you can do. Like you said, donate. And I know maybe not everybody has the resources to do that, but if you do, you can donate. You can, you know, provide your time to just do one guest speaking appearance at a group. You know, I know that you have your impact program. That's actually how I'm on here. Is that I started by going to your program and teaching lessons because that's something that I'm passionate about is sharing. Well, it was like sex ed, but still. But for me as a young parent, when I had my oldest son, I was a young parent, and I never want anybody to grow up without the knowledge they need to have in order to make good sexual decisions. And so that started from there, kind of went that way. And anytime that I can, I try to come in and do little lessons, workshops here and there. I can't commit to every week, every day that he has programming, but I'll go and I'll do a presentation, you know, or donate snacks for your trip or whatever it is.
Just somehow, some way be involved with the community and not part of the problem. You know, being on social media doesn't solve anything. And I just feel like we just get into this constant cycle where people feel like by going on social media, that's solving something, and it's not. You have to be more than what I call a Facebook warrior.
Or like we heard Officer Green talk about, he said parenting. Maybe you're a great parent. Maybe you're great at parenting. You know, step up and help mentor other parents. There are programs out there to do that. Then they need mentors, or maybe just step up and present something to parents, or you know, participate when the city opens up new programming or basketball diamonds, and you know, being a part of the solution instead of using the parks for whatever we like to use.
I mean, they even have something as simple as I know a friend of mine, Tremaine Rayford, he runs the program called the program Incorporated. There we go. It's called the program. But they have an event every year called the Tie Event, and literally it's just Black men or men in general coming out and teaching young men how to tie ties. Like, you don't have to do anything strenuous. You're not teaching a lesson. You're literally coming out for a day.
Teaching somebody how to tie,
which is a hard skill, but that's a skill that you learn on that day that you teach that day. And that's going to be in that kid's mind.
And that kid's going to use that skill to go to job interviews, to be able to impact their life, to be economically sound. I mean, that's
to even teach other kids how to
tie tie or be presentable, to walk across the stage at graduation. I mean, there's a lot of things just doing that one thing. There are so many good programs. If you want programs to get involved with, let us know. We will hook you up. We have so many programs that we have through Mud Talk, that we have through our jobs, through mental health, through education. I mean, there's a lot out there that we can hook you up with. Tell us what you're gifted at, and we will find you a program to hook you up with.
Yes, please do.
Please do. That's how, that right there is how we solve it.
That is how we solve the problem. Get involved. I mean,
get involved.
And it's not, I hate when people say this. We need more programs. We need more
we don't
programs.
know.
We need
more people.
We are actually oversaturated with programs.
Yeah, we need people.
And I don't have, so this is my thing. I have no problem with, even when programs kind of do some of the similar things, you know, I have no problem with that because I'm only one person who can teach, you know, college bound stuff to middle school kids. I don't care if you do the same thing that I do. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I don't care about. But what I do care about is people who are like, we have no programs. We need more programs. You literally have 5, 10 college bound programs. So we don't need more college bound programs. Mm-hmm. We don't need more mentoring programs. We don't need more basketball courts. Don't solve the problem because guess what? They just take their problems to the basketball court.
Yeah, which is what Officer Green had talked about.
Yeah, what he just talked about.
You know, and not that that's not nice because if you are using the basketball court, pick up your trash. You know, be a positive influence if you're using them.
Yeah.
But that's another way that you can be impactful. But when it comes to the programs, we have programs. We need people.
Yes.
And we need people to step up and say, I want to create a good, strong, positive community. Is that going to solve the problem today? No. And I think what I was going to throw in there, but he was giving great input. When he said it took us 2 years, it's going to take us 2 years in education to recover from the pandemic. I think we also have to recognize and realize that a lot of what we had coming. I remember sitting in my house during COVID thinking, you know, it started off, you know, we were in COVID, and then we had the riots happening, and everybody was closed up for 2 years. It's going to take 2 years. It's going to take time. You can't turn around and have the solution fixed right here. But what you can do is you can say, what can I do to impact the community in a positive way? And know that it is going to take time. No, you know, volunteer. Maybe you volunteer one time. Maybe you then tell your neighbor and they volunteer. You get together as a community and say, what can we do in order to make a positive impact? Yes. And know that it is going to take a recovery time.
Yes.
You know, there's time.
Yes. And it's going to take, you have to be consistent though. When it comes to kids, you have to be consistent. Yeah. You can't just come in, you know, in what is this, April, but then skip May, June, and then come back in July. Like you have to be consistent. So if you tell those kids, I'm going to come once a month to read to you, teach you how to tie a tie. Yeah. I don't even care. I don't even care if you go to a program and you just simply donate a snack and eat a snack with them.
Yeah.
Like let me tell you this. So I have put on Facebook back in February and March. Every year at Impact, we always do Career Wednesdays. And Career Wednesdays where we have somebody from the community come in and, you know, either talk about your career or, you know, whatever case may be. And so this time I was like, I think it would be really dope if we had people come in for Career Wednesday, instead of making it so formal, just sit with our kids and have a snack and talk about what you do, like a chat and chew. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And the response was low. And so therefore I just reached out to people that I knew would come through, you know, and I wanted people from different walks of life who I may not know, but yet that's something simple. You come for 20 to 30 minutes, talk about your career and you leave, but then.
And that can be any career.
Yeah, any career. But then they don't do that. But then we have all these youth violence happening. And then, but you're so quick to get on Facebook and say, we need more programs. We need this. We need that. That's not what it is.
And here's the other thing this is the one that gets me, and this isn't an FYF, but this is the one that gets me.
It could be.
When people are like, oh, just move. I'm glad I don't live in, just move.
It's not that
the
simple.
fact of the matter is this. Not everybody has that ability to do that. No, number one. Number two, we have a great community here in Northwest Ohio. And yes, there is some things going on. And it's not just Toledo. Mm-hmm. It is cities everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, my son lives in Cincinnati. I walked down there and I talked to a guy. He was working security. He works at one of the youth jails there. He was telling me things that sound a lot like what we're dealing with here. And so it's not just here, but I'm just going to move. I'm so glad we have a great community. We just have to step up and decide we want to keep it to be a great community.
Absolutely. And then we also have to figure out, you know, what is our priority? Because, you know, right now we're like youth violence. We got to stop the violence, you know, protect the youth. But then when the youth violence is no longer in the media, now we've kind of forgotten about it. And now people have moved on to whatever else they want to talk about. I literally said on Facebook a couple weeks ago, Dr. Rain's off here now. So,
well, it's still going to be part of the show. I'm shedding right now. I'm sorry.
So should I just tell this story?
I don't know. Is it appropriate? Should we save it?
I'm gonna save it.
Okay.
I'll save it. I'll save it for
we'll
the
FYF.
The next
we'll
save it for FYF. Yes, I'll save that story. But I just really want people like to get their priorities together in regards to what's going on in the community, and then also too, like, I'm not saying that we can't have fun and also, you know, take care of business, but I see people respond so quick to these club flyers and sneaker ball flyers and, you know, all that other stuff real quick, you know, free shots before 10. But if we say, hey, Bring your youth out to a free breakfast at 10.
To go learn about college.
To go learn about college.
Magnet
Learn
schools,
how to tie a tie.
Learn how to tie a tie. Or to learn just, there's communication, problem solving. I know.
Don't get me started.
I know.
But yeah.
We could do a whole show.
We
you know what? We will. That's going to be our next special. Can we do a Mud Talk talks about
education?
Healing our community.
We should.
We should. That's it. Done.
Put that one.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So. All right, y'all. We thank y'all for tuning in, tapping in with this.
Yeah. I do have a face. Can I show them that I actually have a face? Well, maybe.
Yes, we're probably gonna edit that part out.
My face?
No, like this.
We're gonna edit all of it out.
The last few 10 minutes. So thank you.
We can just pull clips.
Yeah, but we still gotta post the whole interview.
All right, yeah. Then you can do your exit.
Oh, well, I didn't already do it. But all right. Anyways, y'all, I appreciate you guys, and we appreciate you guys for tuning in with us with this interview with Dr. Durant. Hopefully, you guys learned a lot and how we can help heal our community and do some amazing things with our youth and learn about all the awesome things that TPS does. I think TPS gets such a bad rap sometimes, and people don't realize all of the good stuff that TPS
There's a lot.
does.
And if you want positivity on social media, go follow Dr. Durant and TPS.
Yes. He ain't gonna respond back though.
No, he's not gonna respond back. But I'm telling you, when I go through the stream, like I've learned that I'm like, wow, they offer this, they offer this. I knew about the mentoring program. I knew about the magnet schools. Why? Because it's on there. I knew about you whining on the social media. No, that's fine. You just you just asked Black Baby Jesus.
Yes, I just asked Black Baby Jesus.
Then you get not me. He doesn't like me.
Well, just ask me and I'll ask him.
Okay, I'll be like, can you hit up Black Baby Jesus for me?
Yes, I will hit up Black Baby Jesus for you. So, all right, y'all. I'm Big T.
I'm Miss Amy.
And remember, Mud Talk is the only show that brings you the latest in music, news, and fashion, and the only show that keeps your ears to the streets.
While we grind in the 419.
Deuces, y'all. Be safe. Love y'all. Make good choices.